Good evening, my friends, and welcome to Crow Chat tonight. It's a joy to have you with us this evening on this beautiful night. Look outside my window here and see how nice it is.
Good evening, my friends, and welcome to Crow Chat tonight.
We're
It's
getting
a
a little
joy to
echo
have you
here.
with us.
My producer here is having little audio issues, but we're doing well now. It's a joy to be with you again. This is episode 128 called Cycles and Seasons on this 24th day of April in the 23rd. Hope you'll sign in tonight, and I can't see it tonight. I don't have that up, but I'll be posted on who's up tonight. But we welcome each of you here tonight. Tonight, as we talk about cycles and seasons, just a little introduction here. Life is always interesting, isn't it? Even on a boring day, you can find interesting things if you have your eyes open. But what I want to ask you is, what are you doing with your life? Where are you right now? Are you in a cycle? Do you feel like you're in an endless cycle? Do you feel like you're in a, what I'd call the tumble and dry section of a washing machine, that kind of cycle? What kind of cycle are you in? Hello, Louise. Hello, Sybil. Hello, Wyatt. Hey, Rick. Great to have you. But take a minute and think about it. What cycle are you in right now? Or you might want to call it a season. I think we're going to see tonight that cycles, I believe, are shorter than seasons. And a cycle is episodic a little bit more than what a season is, longer in duration. But the thing that we need to remember is we need to assess where we are, always. When the Lord said to Adam in the Garden of Eden, "Where are you, Adam?" The Lord knew where he was. He needed Adam to know where Adam was. And that's important for you and me to remember as well. We need to know where we are, what we're about, and it's not enough to know where you're headed. That's important. But God did not save us. He did not call us to take us away. He wants to prepare us for here. Jesus will return to this earth. Jesus was resurrected in a new body, not his old earthly body, because he transcended death. Lazarus, when he was resurrected back into this life. Jesus was resurrected through this life into the new, what we call the new covenant, the new creation, the new beginning of the new heavens and the new earth. Jesus is the first fruits of that. So where are you tonight? Are you at a place where you feel confident? God does not want you and me to go through life dreading it. He doesn't want us to go through life thinking we're going to make a mess of it. We are created to be a part of this thing called life. Your life is a part of big life, all of life. We are in a living world, a living universe. The more we find out about it, there's so many little particles within us that are living. In your body, things are alive. The dead cells slough off because new ones come. We are in a process of what we would call recreation, and that's what we become when we trust Jesus Christ. We're recreated. And the living one created us, and he called you and me to enter into this life. Jesus called it abundant life, real life. And it's a good place to start as we get in this home stretch of this book from the teacher. Now remember, that's the beginning of Ecclesiastes in chapter 1, verse 1. It says, "These are the sayings of the teacher." And what that means to us is, it's attributed to Solomon, but he didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it because it says, "I'm telling you what the teacher told us." The teacher in Ecclesiastes is a character within the book. He talks about different types of people, but the teacher is a character as well. So this chapter is full of random thoughts that I think connect under the idea of cycles and seasons. The writer focuses on various pursuits. Now I would call them cycles. A pursuit is a cycle that you may have in life. That's in verses 1 through 4. We see there's a pursuit of work, perhaps of trust. There is verse 2 talks about finance and talks about risk. Verse 3 talks about ordinary observations we make. Verse 4 talks about achievements we can have, actions versus passivity. So we're going to jump into there tonight, but be thinking, before we do that, where are you? Where am I right now? Personally, I am in a good season. It's done a world of good for me to announce that I'm going to be resigning the church and my retirement, in a year or so. When I say a year or so, there's not a hard, fast date. Somebody said, are you going to stay to the end of March next year because you announced it more in the middle of March? Are you going to the end? And they were asking that because they observed something I hadn't seen, that March 31st is Easter. And I had made the comment this year, it could very well be my last Easter message. So there's not a hard, fast, stick it in the date, the date. But the fact is, I'm coming to the end of a chapter in my life, a long season that I've had. So ask yourself, where are you? Matter of fact, somebody made the comment to me via text. They said, this must be a very exciting time for you. And it really is, because when a door closes, another one opens. And you can't start going through another door until you've gotten out of the door that you're in right now. So for all of us, I can't wait to see how God unfolds these things for us. So it'll be interesting to have another role in the church other than being the pastor. I'll probably still do some pastor things, but I cannot wait to support the next person that God has to lead our church into the future. And that'll be exciting. And I want to be the big cheerleader and the supporter of those things. But now let's get into Ecclesiastes, okay? I'm reading in the New Living Translation, and I think this is a good translation for these verses. I looked at several different ones today, but I'm going to stay with this one here, right here, okay? It says, send your grain across the seas, and in time, profits will flow back to you. Now, I heard this word years ago, cast your bread upon the waters. And that's the way it's written, and that's exactly what it says in the Hebrew. It literally talks about bread, and it says cast your bread upon the waters. And so what kind of cycle is this about? It sounds like it's about commerce, and it very well could be. It's a difficult way to translate these verses, or at least to interpret them. You can translate them, cast your bread upon the water, but what does that mean? You see, maybe it's the cycle of a business cycle of selling and profiting. The idea of selling grain is likely a very good interpretation of a business practice. One thing that makes it not perhaps be that is Israel wasn't much to do sailing. They didn't do that. They did it on the Sea of Galilee, which is a lake, a freshwater lake, that is bound on all sides by land. It is a lake. But they didn't do a lot of work in the Mediterranean. The Philistines did that, and others did those things. But so that it may be saying make a profit by what you sell. Take a chance that what you produce will generate profit. But maybe one more thing, and I tend to think this may be it here. It says, toss what you need, bread. Remember, what do we hear about bread? Give us this day our daily bread. Yes. What did God provide for Israel when they were going through the wilderness for food? Bread, manna. That bread of the angel food, as they would call it. Maybe what he's saying is, toss what you need, that bread, that basic building block of life, toss it into the waters. Now, if you read the Psalms especially, waters are always, virtually always, a tempest. They're like a storm, a raging storm, a place of hostility, a place of darkness. Remember, call back to Genesis 1. Remember, in the beginning, the Lord Elohim created the heavens and the earth was void, and it was the face of the earth was covered with waters that were deep, and it was dark. Israel tended to think, because I think it was deep, the sea is dark, and they weren't seafaring people. They thought it had creatures there that was kind of a symbol of where evil would come from. When you read the Revelation, the last book in the Bible, it talks about 4 beasts come up out of the sea, out of the waters. And they tended to have this view that the waters is where things are very turbulent. It's not terra firma under our feet. And so a few other things from their history, remember, the water was always kind of a barrier there. Of course, we've done the story of Noah and the flood. But think about this for a moment. Genesis 1, the seas were there. But think about when Israel came out of Egypt. They had to go through a sea, the Red Sea. And God opened up and made a way through the sea. Then they had to go through the Jordan River, another water line. The water was always a barrier, it seemed like, for God's people. So maybe what he's saying is, if you trust God with the basics in this world, God will lead you, take care of you, and good will come to you. And I would say certainly that's a reality, that if we do trust God with the basic things of life, Good will come to us. He will take care of us. We know that. So that encouraged me at this point where I've got some things that are uncertain in my life going forward. That was an encouraging verse for me today. That wasn't about business so much to me as it was about faith and practice. But either way you look at it doesn't matter where you are in your life. It may very well be sell your grain so that you can get a profit at that point. Hello, Charlie Marlowe. Hello, Ron. Hello. Yeah, so good to see you guys. But anyway, let's come to verse 2 here. Devise your investments among many places, for you don't know what risk might lie ahead. That sounds like good, sound financial advice, doesn't it? This is a financial word about investment and risk. Clearly, what is he saying? Diversify your money. You don't know which investment will pay off and which will lose money. You know, I've not been real good at doing that in my life, and matter of fact, a lot of times I've chosen more than one bad risk, it seems like at times. But there's always a level of risk in any investment. He's saying here, work to have reasonable risk. That is really what's going on here. Be wise with that. In verse 3 and 4, and I think they go together, it says, when the clouds are heavy, the rains come down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. These verses seem to point to something very obvious. Rain comes from heavy clouds, trees fall and they stay put. It's never perfect weather, and a storm can't be perfectly forecast. We know that. Sometimes it looks like it's going to rain, and it doesn't rain. I talk about my app on my phone, the weather app, how inconsistent it is. As a matter of fact, it's amazing. They get it right a third of the time. They think they're doing a good job. It's almost like a baseball average. If you bat 300, you're doing a great thing. But what we find is this: you can't wish for things to be otherwise. Trees fall, and where they fall, that's where they stay. You can wish for it, but that means it's going to happen. Conditions seem to be, they never seem to be perfect, so that there's absolutely, you can forecast the future. These words seem to be for those who are afraid to ask out of fear of failure. But here's the thing to remember. Life is not about failing. Life is about living. Living. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now look, Paul, he wasn't saying I can be the strongest man in the world. What he was saying is I can handle anything that comes at me through Christ. And that is so important for us to understand. It's never absolutely perfect. If you're dominated by fear, you will never really live life. You'll be paralyzed. You won't make a decision. You'll be afraid to. Life is about living. See, life requires a baby to leave the safety and the security of a mother's womb for that life to keep going. Otherwise, it will die. For a young person to leave home and start a life, there's a risk. There is, that happens. If marriage is your path, no one can guarantee a happy marriage. No one can guarantee that if a couple says, I want to have children, and we want to have children, it doesn't guarantee that you can. No matter how much you may want that child, no matter how much you may want that marriage to work, no matter how much you want to get into that new job, you can get a job and you can lose a job. Sometimes you screw up an opportunity, and sometimes you lose, and sometimes incredible opportunity comes for you that you know you did not deserve. Yeah, those things happen. Don't be afraid to plant your life, is what he's saying. Don't live life on the edges. Live it to the full. You never harvest a crop if you don't work, if you don't risk, if you don't invest. No farmer can say, I'm guaranteeing I'm going to get this year. I lived in an agrarian community for 4 years in the Delta of Mississippi. And during that time, it was amazing to watch the farmers plant. And at that time, cotton was the king crop, with soybeans a close second. And they would do that. And 1 year, we just got no rain. And the soybeans never got more than 6 inches tall. It was a total loss that year. Matter of fact, that was my first harvest time there. And I thought, I'm going to be the pastor that came here and starved to death the first year, killed the church. We survived. And the thing is, the next year, incredible crop. It was a bumper crop, double what that. Farming is a speculation, and you need to be wise on how you do that. But you can't harvest if you don't farm. And farm means you've got to put seed in the ground that is not yet gotten its value. It's going to cost you. Now, there's an interlude here. The interlude is, we can consider some things that we can't get our brain around. He's getting ready to mention something here. We may know the facts, and the facts may be real. They are real. They make sense, but facts don't tell the story. You see, facts may lead to a conclusion, but facts don't make a conclusion. That's important to understand. Conclusions require the work of developing thought around the facts you have, bringing imagination to life, and fashioning a story. That's the whole story. That's how a detective does their work. They get facts, and then they say, but how could this have been? And they put it together. And there is a bit of imagination. It's not an exact science. When you do any kind of discovery, matter of fact, all inventions start with a big question. What if? How could? Can we? And those things, and that happens in our spiritual life as well. Will you risk following Christ? Will you risk honoring Him with your income so that you could tithe and you could say, God, I want to prove you. I want to see that come to, I know it's a fact, but I want to see it in practice. Now this transitions into bringing cycles to seasons. And that's what we're getting into now. Cycles are shorter practices, shorter events, shorter activities. Seasons are more prolonged. Seasons merge together instead of being easily compartmentalized. We're in a time here where it's been warm. It was 86 the other day, really hot, and it's going to be almost down to freezing tomorrow night. We may cover up some plants that we have here so that the crop will grow. So let's look at some seasons we get into. In verse 5, notice what it says. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind, nor the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb, you can't understand the activity of God who does all things. Now this is a season, I would say, is the season of birth. Wind exists, we feel it, but we can't see it. It says you can't understand the path of the wind. We can see the effects of the wind, but we cannot see the wind. You can see a tornado. That's the wind on steroids. That's really huge. But what you're seeing is not the wind in a tornado. What you're seeing is whatever the wind is moving and collecting in its violent twirling. You're seeing the stuff in the wind, not just the wind. We can't see the wind. Sky is the air around that wind. Because you can see a tornado against a blue sky or dark sky, doesn't matter. You see it, but that's all air around there. That wind is there, making that tunnel of damage. You see, Nicodemus and Jesus talked about this. They said it's like the Spirit. Jesus said Spirit's like the wind. You can see it, you can feel it, but you don't know where it comes from, you don't know where it's going. There is movement in the air that you can detect, but you cannot explain it. It's just like a baby. How in the world does a sperm and an egg get together in a window of opportunity to produce a pregnancy? It's quite amazing. A baby doesn't come every time intercourse happens. A baby doesn't come, that doesn't happen that way. And sometimes babies come when you don't want them to come. You have an unexpected pregnancy. Mary, the mother of Jesus, had an unexplained pregnancy. She just said, I can't explain it, but I can tell you I am pregnant. You see, pregnancy is amazing. And here's the thing. When the sperm and the egg come together, you can't see it. Now, you can see it with microscopes. But listen, you can't see it, but it does begin to show. Yeah, time passes, and it begins to show. And it's not because time passes, it's because process happens. You're in a season of birth. This is the way that God works, and He's working in our world. It's invisible to see sometimes. We go things look like they're getting worse and worse. No, God's at work. You can't see it to measure it, but you can trust that the work is being done. Remember Jesus' prayer, your kingdom come, your will be done. I'm preaching on that this coming Sunday. May the invisible, that is your will, God, become visible here on earth. That's what we're saying. That's the way God works. That's the way God is working in this world. You can't see it and measure it, but you know it's happening. May the invisible become visible. Now, one other question, just real quick. Can you see love? You see the effects of love. You can't see love. You can't see joy. You can see the effect of joy. You can see the smile come. You can see the eyes light up. But that's not joy. You can't see joy. These things are in the heart. You can't see Love, joy, peace. You can't see peace. You see the effect of it. When somebody is calm and they go through a hard time. And I'm talking about the fruit of the Spirit here. Patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. You can't see any of those things, but you see the effect of every one of them. Do you know why? They're Spirit generated. And that's what he is telling us here very plainly. You can't see the wind. You can't see that. You can't explain how a baby is born, but you can see the effect when that baby is born and that it is growing. You see the effect. So embrace the mystery. I think that's what this is saying. Enjoy life. Life is to be enjoyed, not endured. Understand there's certain things you cannot explain, but you can experience. And you can find it to be the joy of your heart. Now let's walk quickly on here to verse 6. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. This is not the season of birth. This is a season of work. The season of make sure you plant your life in something you enjoy doing. Don't get locked into doing my job. Whether it's farming, bookkeeping, cleaning, leading, whatever the job is, don't be locked into a career. Because you're not a career. You're not an activity of work. You are a person who has a divine plan in your life. Life is better than a career. Careers come and go. Your life is going to remain. In talking to retired friends who have moved to retirement destinations, one of them told me the other day, they said, it's really interesting that people in the very beginning, they go through different stages in retirement. At first, they love the lack of accountability they have, the lack of responsibility. They can sleep in, they can do what they want to do, and have no responsibilities. But it was not too long before that new wears off. And then they realize if they don't really have a purpose in life, if they don't know why they are doing what they're doing, if they're just, quote, retired, they have a hole in their soul. Yeah. Sadness, depression can set in. And then you go through this time, and there's either going to be a rebirth, like a new excitement. Well, look, here's what I can do. Or there's a death. I mean, you end up going like, oh, wow, I'm in despair. Now, what's the word he's saying here? Find life interesting. Follow your heart. There's more than one way to live a life. Pursue a passion. So what he's saying is, you can plant seed in the morning, you can do something else all afternoon. What he's saying is, there's just not one way to live your life. You don't know where the profit will come. When I first graduated from college, I went into industry, and quite honestly, I loved working in the industry world. I was working for Western Auto, and I was working at a warehouse, and I was having a great time sharing Christ in a way. Had not been a Christian long, and I was enjoying sharing that as I was preparing to know that I would be going to grad school later. But during that time, it was a tremendous time in my life. And as a matter of fact, many ways I would like to retire out of this passion and go back into the industry world. Part of that's going to happen in my life, it seems like. And that's exciting. But listen, life, there's a work season. There's a work season for us. Now, he says in verse 7, life is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. I think that's the best translation I've seen of that verse. Others will say, I forget exactly how they read it, but I think this is one of the most overlooked verses of joy in the Scriptures. It's a delight. The New Living captures it. I love what it says. Now, it's sweet to see the light of a new day. Whew. How pleasant to see a day dawning. Now, that's not talking about you have to see the sunrise. Somebody, the famous saying is, if God had wanted me to see the sunrise, he would have made it later in the day. And, there's something special when you see the sun come up. But here's the point. When does light come? After dark. Yeah. Darkness makes light special. Darkness, sleep, rest, quiet, those are not bad things. They're good things. When I went home this last time and spent time with my mother, when we got there, their power had gone out. And when I say they, Mom's power went out, and for 3 days we didn't have power there. And it was just Mom and me alone there. Becky had gone down to her mom's, and Mom and I were there. And it narrowed all of our activity possibilities. It brought a harvest, though, of conversation. I wouldn't take anything for it. It was precious. Now, I was certainly glad when electricity got restored. We really enjoyed that. But we couldn't cook. There's just so many things you couldn't do, and we had a new day. Yeah, we take a new day for granted. Live every day. Don't just say, "Oh God, it's morning." Say, "Good Lord, it is morning. Good morning, Lord. I'm happy." Please use it wisely. Don't do that horrible thing of saying, "I'm just going to waste the day. I've got a day to kill. I don't." Man, that's one of the most obscene things we can say is, "I want to kill some time." Time is the most precious thing we have. You can't save it up. You can't buy more of it. All you have is what you have. Use it wisely. We're not guaranteed any certain amount of it. It doesn't mean always be busy. That's not what it's saying here. It means be intentional. Live your life with a purpose. I want to honor God today, and here's how I'm going to do it. And you may pick up a new habit. You may pick up a new hobby. You may say, "I'm going to learn to read some things I would want to read to understand the scriptures better." Or maybe you want to understand spiritual reality. If you have those desires or those needs, please let me know that. I could give you a reading list. I could work with you on that. I'm in one of the most exciting times in my life because I'm reading so many different things and I'm enjoying it. And I am looking forward to the time where I can do massive study and then I can begin to do some writing that I want to do. It doesn't mean we always are busy. What it means, because it can be good to unplug. Pastor Paul went on a retreat this week where you turned your phone in and you didn't get it for 3 days. And it was a tremendous thing for him, but it was a tremendous thing for that retreat. So, those are things that are important for us. It's good to unplug at times. Be still and know that I'm God. But be intentional and then be content in your own soul. People ask me often that they've noted that Becky and I go to Vermont in New England for vacations. Just about yearly. It's not every single year, but most years we do. And they say, "Why do you go there and go to the same place?" To chill. We see beauty, we see those things, and we see some of the same things we've seen. There's other places in the world we could go. We know that. We enjoyed the trip out west incredibly. We'll do that again when we have more time, that our work schedules don't stop that. But the thing that I would say, this year, Becky and I made an intentional decision to take a few extra days on our vacation just to chill. We don't have anything planned for those days. It may be raining up there, and maybe we're just going to sleep in that day. Maybe we're going to watch something on TV. Maybe we'll binge watch a series maybe we'll read. She'll do Count Across Stitch, I'm sure. Maybe we'll put puzzles together. But we're just going to chill. We're going to have some time. And then we have things we will do, no doubt. But we wanted to plan some time, and we did it intentionally, not by accident. And it's not going to be like, "Oh gosh, we don't have anything to do today." No, we know what we're going to do with our time. In verse 8, got 3 more verses here, and this one is by itself, and the next 2 go together. But in verse 8, when people live to be very old, Becky, quit looking at me. Let them rejoice in every day of life. But let them also remember there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless. How this writer can't stand it. They cannot stand shining a darkness into the light. This is the aging season, the season of elderliness. Okay, after such a very pleasant thought of every day's a new day, we've got this new pleasant thing. Then he comes along and says, "There's a lot of dark days. There's a meaningless future." It makes me not want to live to be very old, and I do want to enjoy life. I'm grateful that my health has been good to this point. Many of us say age is a state of mind, and that's kind of true. I love the sentiment of it. I don't feel like I'm nearly 70, but I'm not in denial about it. I embrace that I am almost 70, and what I do, I'm really grateful that I don't embrace one of the values that our culture projects and seems to love, of having a bucket list. I want to do all these things before I die. That comes out of a mentality saying, I don't want to miss out on anything. That's not living life to the fullness. That's living life to the fastest. And there's a difference. I want to find out more of how good God is to me. I do want to go on living. I want to invest in others. I want to invest in learning. I want to grow my spirit. I want to grow my mind, my understanding. I want to understand my place in the universe. I want to understand more about why God made me the way He did. I want to find out how good God can be. Yes, dark days will come. I'm sure they will. Evening and morning is the first day. We understand that. And the pattern continues, but it is not meaningless. The writer here is saying something that comes from a mind that has been corrupted. And the mind has been corrupted by either cynicism, sin, perhaps, but he's allowed his mind to go where it should not go. Life is not meaningless. Here's the thing. As I'm getting older, and I am, my new life is getting closer. And what I mean by that is life is not going to end when I quit breathing, when I quit thinking. No. A new life is beginning, and my life will transcend through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I won't be given a new body yet because that's not to come yet. But we will be in some sense with the Lord. We don't know what all that means. But when He returns, we'll all have resurrected bodies in Christ. Wow. But see, it's not meaningless. It may be long. It's not meaningless, though, and we have no idea what it means to be in the presence of the Lord. But I promise you this, it's good. I do know that much. That's the season of aging. Yes, dark days may come. But friend, dark can't stay if you have light. Remember that. The light drives out the darkness. Now, finish it up, this statement on youth. Young people, it says it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy it. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do. Take it all in. But remember, you must give an account to God for everything you do. That almost sounds like he's saying, you can do whatever you want, but you'll get in trouble. That's not what it's saying. Refuse to worry and keep your body healthy. Remember that in youth, a whole life is before you. It's meaningless. Wow, the youthful season, it's not meaningless. It's pregnant with emotion, with meaning, with chemistry. Your body's changing in so many ways. This is not a season to run through. Enjoy your youth. Don't be wishing, I wish junior high goes, I wish I was in high school. High schoolers go, I wish I could graduate and go to college. College students say, I wish I was out. I wish I didn't have to stay in school anymore. They get a job. They go like, I wish I could get married. Perhaps they say that, and they get married. Then they say, I wish we could have a kid, and they have a kid. Then I say, I wish I could get my kids out of the house, and they do that. Then they say, I wish I could retire, and then they retire. And they're wishing their life away. When you plan your life, when you're always looking for the next thing, you don't enjoy this thing. And that's really important. Embrace life so you will live life. Enjoy it. In your youth, and most of you are not youth. Wyatt, you are, and others are. But listen, let your mind learn to play, find meaning in everything. Play, work, family, friends, sports, what you love, dance, learning, expanding your mind, music. Grow your interest and follow what you love. Don't be shut into a corner by those who, quote, know better. Listen, but think for yourself, because it's your life. Don't believe something just because somebody tells you. You believe it because you believe it. Do the work. Plant the seed. Grow the harvest. Understand what you believe. Don't believe something because the church says it. Believe it because you understand it, that is true about Jesus and life in you. See, the reason you want to live it well is you are responsible for it. You will give an account to how your life goes. Now, an account doesn't always mean you'll get in trouble. You can say, Lord, here's what I did with my life. And he'll say, fantastic, you did exactly what I wanted you to do. You give an account. The account is the meaning of your life. The account is this. Did you go all in? I mean, did you really go all out when you did what you did? Did you love it? Did you find things to be passionate about? And think about when you're young, what is going to last? Is it going to be worth it? What lifts you? What helps others? What is the big thing? What is the bigger thing for your life? If you let your heart follow these things, worry will not plague you. Not at all. Your life will not be meaningless. And I want you to live to show that verse to be false. Life is not meaningless whether you're old tonight, like me, or whether you're young, like some of you. Don't let life be meaningless. There are cycles and seasons to life. So let's just say there's a few things. Live with responsibility and possibility mindset. I am not locked in. I can make better choices. So I live with possibility. Live with wise pacing. Our nation, our world is, but our nation in particular, is way too fast and way too busy as a culture. We try to jam things way too much. Live with flexibility. If you hit a dark day, they don't last forever. Dark days can be helpful. There can be times you really learn. You learn to see and hear. Live with accountability. Be accountable, number one, to yourself. To thine own self be true. Be faithful to others. Be faithful with God. Accountable. Live in every season. Don't skim a season wanting to get to the next one. Do your job well when you're working it. And if you need to change jobs, go get the one you like. Leave that one and go to another. Finish well. That starts with beginning well and living well and growing well. And lastly, live and learn. Life is meaningful. People are valuable. God is awesome. Wow. Ecclesiastes, I don't like the way it does itself. You have to ponder it. But when you do, you find the light shines bright in the darkness. It's not a time to despair. It's a time to delight in the Lord. God bless you. It's been a joy to be with you tonight. I think that middle-aged golfer like that. But listen, let's just be grateful for the life we have. And let's walk in love together. May God bless you. May you have a wonderful week this week. And may this week, as we come to the end of April on Sunday, if you live in that neighborhood here where we are, we have a brunch on Sunday morning. We'll be eating and teaching around tables on Sunday. It won't be like in the rows and those things. And I love those days. And it's going to be a time of special treats. And I think it'll be a great day. I hope to see you there. God bless you. Have a great day until we see you again. Remember, God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good.